Hi, everybody. My name is Hugh. I am already 19 years old, but I have to admit, I still feel like a victim of my parents' divorce. Psychologists say that certain childhood trauma can haunt you for the rest of your life. They're probably right. Anyway, my story won't just be about this. I unintentionally got revenge on my mother for my ruined childhood by ruining her own personal life. Or maybe it actually was intentional. I don't know. My parents decided to divorce when I was 11 years old. At this age, I still wasn't old enough to just accept it, but I was already smart enough to know what it was. And damn it, it was a disaster. Try to imagine this. One day I lived in a normal, happy family, or what I thought was a normal, happy family, and the next day I found out that my father wouldn't live with me anymore. My mom broke this news to me in the car on our way home from school. When we returned to our house, neither my dad nor his stuff was there. It's not like he ran away, it was just that my mother decided it would be better for me if everything happened quietly. You know, without a big scene or overly dramatic farewells between a father and his son. Mom, she tried to save me in this bizarre way. As a result, I didn't see my father again for almost 2 weeks. He needed some time to settle down into a new home. These 2 weeks seemed like an eternity for me. I was starting to think that I would never see him again. And, of course, I blamed my mother, especially considering that she decided to hide the real reason for the divorce from me. Which is to say, she didn't tell me that my dad was seeing another woman. Do you see what was happening? Perhaps my mom just wanted the best for me, but as a result, I only harbored a huge grudge against her for what happened. And I've always been more attached to my father than to her. I had admired him since childhood, and I still do. He's a successful person. He has his own business, and he paid us so much in alimony that I never needed anything. He's already 47 years old, but I envy how well he takes care of himself. I hope I can manage to be that athletic and fit when I'm that age. My father's relationship with the other woman, the one who was the reason my parents divorced, ultimately didn't work out. But after that, he always dated very beautiful and stunning women, sometimes even much younger than him. My old man is very easygoing and loves surprising me. For example, once he picked me up after school and we talked while he was driving me home. But he suddenly made a sharp turn and went to the airport. Instead of going home, we caught the next available flight to Alaska. And all this was because while we were talking, I mentioned that it would be nice to go fishing there together someday. I only mentioned it because I had just watched some instructional videos at school, and just like that, my dad immediately came up with one of the most unforgettable adventures of my life. So, compared to my dad, my mom would have to do a lot to make the same kind of impression on me. She was a pretty ordinary housewife who was busy with things like trying not to forget to buy bleach at the supermarket, rather than with cool and extraordinary ideas. When I became a little older, I realized that my mother and I had absolutely no common interests. We didn't even watch movies together. She loved soap operas or reality shows and rarely watched anything else. Fortunately, she never objected when I spent time with my father. I still got my share of adventure, but I dreamed of moving into his house instead. Unfortunately, this was impossible. My dad said that he wouldn't be able to take proper care of me because he was working all the time. Now I realize that maybe my mother wasn't always so boring. I think she changed right after the divorce. She was probably depressed or something like that. Maybe she even blamed herself for letting our family fall apart. It probably hurt her to find out about her former husband's personal life, and she might also be ashamed of herself. She was still alone, and she wasn't as young or alluring as my father's new girlfriends. To me, this is the obvious reason that she started dating Mr. Blythe. Desperation. Mr. Blythe was a guy who moved into the house next door a few years ago. He was about the same age as my dad, but he was the exact opposite. He was short and fat and had a large, round, bald head, which literally started to shine when Mr. Blythe got nervous. And he got nervous pretty often, especially when I was around. To be honest, I immediately disliked him. By the time they started dating, I had gotten so used to my mom being single that I never thought about what would happen if she found herself with a boyfriend. And when my mom started to go visit Mr. Blythe for a half an hour, it didn't even occur to me that they were having an affair. And when my mother confessed to me, with a shy smile, and asked if I would mind if Mr. Blythe came over for dinner and possibly stayed the night once in a while, well, at first I was genuinely surprised, and then I felt something more like disgust. I was sure that my mom could not just fall in love with some neighborhood schlub like Mr. Blythe. Not after she had been married to a man like my father. But, of course, I never said any of that. I just told her it was her business. When she and Mr. Blythe officially began to date, I was already 16 years old, and I knew that I was supposed to be able to handle it like an adult. Easier said than done. The more I got to know Mr. Blythe, the more I disliked him. It seemed to me that he was a dumb and boring person whose ambitions were limited to sitting on the sofa and watching sports on TV with a can of beer in his hand. I didn't even notice that Mr. Blythe would try to cozy up and impress me. From time to time, he invited me to football games and bought tickets, but I always refused and didn't even bother trying to hide my irritation. I had no interest in being all buddy-buddy with my mom's new boyfriend. To her credit, my mom noticed that I could barely stand Mr. Blythe and did her best to keep their relationship outside of our house. But still, after a couple of years of the relationship, Mr. Blythe proposed to her, and Mom accepted. That was about a year ago. I was already 18. I was starting college in the city, and now I could live anywhere I wanted, so my mother's personal life should not have bothered me. But around the same time, my father and I had a serious talk. He invited me for lunch, and after catching up and some small talk, he had told me that he had recently broken up with a woman he had been seeing and felt very lonely. He said that recently, he has been thinking more and more about his past life with my mother, and now he was positive that 7 years ago, he had made a big mistake. After that, my father completely changed the topic of our conversation, but his words became etched in my memory. I decided that if there was any chance to reunite my parents, then I should do something about it. I was sure that if my dad wanted to come back, my mom would immediately throw Mr. Blythe away and accept him back. I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's no competition between the slob next door and my dad, right? To begin with, I told Mr. Blythe about my father. I had never brought up this topic in our house before, and the ridiculous Mr. Blythe was so happy that I wanted to talk to him without my mom around that he didn't care what we were going to talk about. I showed this loser my dad's photos, told him how rich he was, how happy he and my mom were once upon a time. Then I added that their love couldn't have disappeared without a trace. When Mr. Blythe realized what I was doing, he tried to stop me, but he didn't have the guts to. Our little chat was only interrupted when my mother came back home. Mr. Blythe's mood in the days that followed made it perfectly clear he had gotten my message. Mr. Blythe was starting to feel inferior to my father. Around the same time, I sent several text messages to my mother from my father's phone. He often left it lying around, and he always needed me to set it up for him anyway. The messages were supposed to look like part of a dialogue between two people who were secretly meeting again. These two people were, of course, my mother and my father. At the same time, I sent several messages to Mr. Blythe, also on behalf of my father. The tone of these messages was restrained but threatening enough. Basically, they politely but firmly suggested that Mr. Blythe should just leave my mother alone. Then I said if he wasn't sure why he should leave her alone, he could just take a look at my mom's phone. I didn't expect such quick results, but Mr. Blythe behaved quite decisively. But still, unexpectedly, he packed up his things and left the city. He wrote my mom a letter, like an actual letter with pen and paper. I still don't know what it said. Maybe he understood my plot and decided not to mess with a psycho like me. I don't know. I didn't take my mother into account at all, but she reacted very predictably. As soon as she found the messages, she called my dad to find out what was going on, and they talked. My father didn't know what she was talking about because I erased all the messages from his phone right after they were sent. But while they were talking, it became clear he had no plans to come back to my mom. He was simply in a nostalgic mood when we spoke that day, and after our conversation, the mood was gone. I realized that I had done something wrong. I apologized to my mother and suggested that I speak with Mr. Blythe, but it turned out that he had changed his phone number. In the car repair shop where he worked, nobody could give me any clues. Mr. Blythe just quit and didn't say anything else. He doesn't even have any accounts on social media, so I can't contact him that way either. My mother still hasn't told me what was in the note that he left. A year has passed, and this strange situation still remains unsolved. And now my mom seems to be in a depression that's even worse than after her divorce with my father. Well, that's the end of my strange story. I don't know if I can fix anything. Probably not. In any case, thanks for listening through to the end. I'll be grateful if you could give me some advice in the comments.